What is up, everybody? This is Mycophiles Sage checking in here today. I hope you guys are doing well. So today I will actually want to make a video about swabs. Now, people over the year now that I've been running Mycophilia have asked me to make a swab video, and I have always resisted because I felt like there's plenty of good swab videos out there, and I only really want to make a video unless I can actually contribute something. But regardless, one of my patrons asked me because I sent out a bunch of swabs for the genetics tier that I recently opened on my Patreon. By the way, next month it's probably going to be Florida grass lovers, so get your truffles on. And I'm going to increase the limit to 100 people. So if you're interested, keep an eye out for that. I will make an announcement. But anyways, so they were asking me and I said, okay, I will do it. And I was like, okay, you know what? I can actually make a contribution. I'm going to contribute my method that I haven't seen anybody talk about on here on how to actually store a swab, right? So let's say that you use one swab, right? And you want to save the other for a rainy day. A lot of people store it back in here, right? Or they have some other storage method. But I want to show you guys, I feel like the simplest and the cleanest method and the easiest method to do it. And it's so effective, and that's what we're all about, right? So I want to share that with you guys as well. So let's get to the basics of swabs. So, you know, there's many different techniques for swabs out there, right? You know, there's techniques where, for example, you take tweezers and you take a little bit of the swab out, and then you just streak it on a plate, or you just put it on a plate, or, you know, you make like a petal pattern, all sorts of things, or maybe you stick it inside. I just want to show you guys the simplest, most basic, and most fundamental way to use a swab. And as long as your swab is not completely dirty and contaminated, then this will work fine. And talking about dirty and contaminated swabs, it's really, really hard. I don't know how you can get like swabs to be so dirty that all you get is literally bacteria, because I've had swabs like that, and I just don't understand like how you could have like how you could mess it up so much. Just do the bare minimum at least of sterile technique. At least then you'll get some clean growth. But I've had swabs that's just literally bacteria. No mycelium, just the whole plate is just bacteria, and I don't know how that's possible. Well, I have an idea, but it's just hard to imagine how anybody could make it so dirty. So this video is actually aimed towards mainly my patrons, because they are getting clean swabs. I have done numerous batch tests of these swabs that I've made and I've sent out, and I haven't had a single spot of contamination. They've all been very virile. Here's the latest test. You can see it's all just mycelium coming out, right? These are two different swabs from a batch. So they are definitely clean as pretty much spore swabs can be. So this method will work just fine for those who have received my genetics. So I'm basically going to show you the whole process. First, let's get some things out of the way. So the first thing is there's two different types of swabs out there, or I should say two different swabbing techniques, right? So the first one is like this, where you go through the gills, right? You gently go through the gills and you try to pick up the spores in between. Now this one right here is an albino variety. So yeah, you can see that there's coloration all around. And you know, no matter how gently you go through the gills, you are still going to be picking up gill fragments. Even if you can't see them with your eyes, they're there, right? That's just the basic. What you want to do is you want to limit the amount of gill fragments you have on there. So I tried to be careful with this one, but sometimes it's difficult, right? But either way, it works. And the more important thing is that you want to make sure that you let your swabs dry out before storing them, and these have been dried very well. You don't want any moisture in there. So that's that. So that's number one, right? And the second method is a cleaner method, but it's not possible with all varieties, because oftentimes like this one, it's an albino, right? A lot of albinos, well, generally most albinos don't drop spores. You have to swab them, and even then you don't know 100% if you actually have spores, because a lot of them are sterile. So the right way to do it is to check it under a microscope. And the second thing is that, but there's some varieties, right, that actually do drop spores. And over here, you can see that, right? That's nice thick spores right there. So basically this way is you take a spore print, right? And then you just sort of scrape a little bit onto the tip. And this is a lot more than a little bit. I know it seems, compared like visually, it's like, oh, there's no color, so there's like no spores here. Believe me guys, this is more than enough spores than you need, right? So these are the two primary types of swabs out there. So yeah, that's the basics. So let's get to how you should properly and cleanly use these swabs, how to germinate your agar plates so you get good clean growth like this. All right, I'm gonna set up my fan filter unit, my Lab Rats Nomad, of which a video will be coming out soon. I'm almost done filming it. So I'm gonna get that set up and I will be back. All right, everybody, I am back. I hope you guys can see everything. I tried to set up to the best of my abilities. It's gonna be a bit awkward working here, but I'm gonna do my best with the stand in the way. Today, we're actually going to be inoculating a single plate with Mexican grass lovers. And with a single swab, I'm just doing a single plate because I'm confident I'll get plenty of spores with this, plenty of growth with this, I should say. Generally, I recommend doing 5 plates, 4 to 5 plates, maybe 3 to 5 plates, but a couple of plates just to be sure, especially if you don't know like the source. If you've never had swabs from a single source, it's good to be safe and do a couple of plates because there could be contamination, or it just might not be very virile. It might be some old spores, etc. But I know this is fresh and I made it to good quality standards. So I'm just gonna do 1 plate and then I'm gonna take the other one and I'm gonna put it into storage. All right, so before we start, I'm gonna clean my hands with some hypochlorous acid. If you're using alcohol, use alcohol, just proper regular sterile technique. And so, now I'm going to show you guys how I like to do this. So first things first, let's get everything ready before we even think about the swabs. So we are going to take the plate. I've already labeled it. I'm just going to spray some hypo on it and just sort of get some of the droplets off and send it there. And so we are going to also going to ISO this down just slightly, especially towards the parts that we're going to be taking it out of. We're going to be taking it out of the bottom, not the front. And don't worry about the moisture, guys. These swab packets, most of them are made to be autoclavable. So if you wanted to, you could actually put them in a pressure cooker. They can handle a little bit of moisture. And this one, we're just going to be using it once, and then we're not going to be using the package anymore. So don't worry about that. They'll be completely safe. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to take the wrapper off of my agar plate. All right. Here we are. So the way to go about this is simple. You see this? This is the side that I taped, right, with micropore tape to keep it safe. A lot of people like to go from this end to open up this end, right? And oftentimes they'll use scissors or something. Don't use scissors. You can use scissors, but it's just another possible contamination vector. You want to avoid that at all costs, if possible. So what I want to do is I actually go through the other side. When I open spore swabs, I go from this side because this side I haven't touched before, at least on the inside. Whereas this side, even though I'm wearing gloves, even though I disinfect my hands, it's still not 100%, right? Whereas this side, it is 100%, at least on the inside. So that's why I always go from the bottom. And as you can see here, you got this layer, and then you get like the plastic airy layer, like the pouch layer, right? What we want to do is we want to carefully make a tear right here, like barely on the pouch area. It's okay if you mess up, but that's what we want to do. So here I go. All right, made a little tear there. And now we're just going to rip it off. All right. It wasn't a perfect tear, but that's okay. So I'm going to take this side a little bit carefully, very carefully, not touching the swabs. And let me just go this side as well. All right. Okay, so now you can see that it's open, right? And I'm doing this outside the flow hood to show you the camera, so it's okay if I may get some contamination. the point is I want to get my message across here. So you want to go like this, take this side, right? It's not touching, okay? And then take the other side and make a tear like this. Just want to be careful, okay? Peel it like a banana. That was a little close, so it wasn't the best demonstration, but I'm just trying to balance with the camera and everything. So we take this, right? Now you want to pull this out because we want to use one swab, right? But don't go like this because your hand will be getting very close to there. What you want to do is you want to feed into, you want to feed it little by little, okay? And I know it's outside the flow, but it's okay. So again, it's for demonstration. So this is the one that we're going to be using. So let's put it aside into this clean cup that I sprayed along with hypo, and it's cleaned and all that. So what you want to do then, here is the storage. So you want to take a sandwich bag, right? These are all sterile inside. So what you want to do is you want to take a sandwich bag. You ideally want to have it prepared. A brand new one you want to take, right? And you want to basically take the wrapper off, right? You want to carefully, and then you don't want to touch the inside. You just want to stick your swab inside there, and voila, it is properly stored in a clean, sterile environment. Because these come sterile because, well, you don't want to be getting sick off your sandwich, right? So this should be good. Make sure it's sealed. Keep it in a cool, dry place. Make sure you label it, and it's good to be used another day. So we'll put that off to the side. So that's my little contribution. Use Ziploc bags, very effective. And after I finished editing this video, it suddenly occurred to me that there is actually a far easier way to open a swab packet. Tear the package from the middle, or around the middle, and then gently pull the top half of the swab pack upwards. Note how I am gently twisting the package to make an easy, calculated tear. See how I am cupping the package in my hand before slowly pulling it off? This is a measure to minimize the potential of contact between the swabs and the outside of the package, as you will shortly see. Now I emphasize gentle, because you don't want something like this happening. This method is safer than the method I just showed you because your fingers will be nowhere near the cotton side. In other words, the cotton side will be protected by the packet at all times until you pull it off, by which point your fingers will be far away. Now the downside is that you will not be able to store the extra swab back inside the original package, but the method with the Ziploc is far superior to putting it back inside the packaging and taping it up anyways. Not to mention, much easier as well. Now, pairing this opening method with the Ziploc storage method will absolutely maximize the cleanliness of your swabs. Back to the video. And so now let's get swabbing these guys. I know guys, it may not, I got my swab outside the flow and everything, but again, this is just for demonstration purposes, right? I just want to get the concept through to you guys. That's the main point that I want to get through in this video. So, okay, so now we got the swab and we have the plates, right? So, what you want to do, open it up like this. You just want to go like that. And it's good to go. So now we're going to wrap this up. It's very simple. You just swab it on there. That's why I call it a swab, right? And these are very clean swabs, so you don't have to worry too much about swabbing methods and stuff. But you will definitely get growth. When you're doing it, you want to also move it around if possible. But if you're going to be doing multiple plates, which you probably should be, I advise you do that. For various reasons, not for contamination only, but because, for example, with a swab, with this method, you can only use it pretty much once, right? Is when you're swabbing it. You can't really store it now because it's got the agar on there and it could contaminate. It probably will contaminate if you don't, especially if you don't store it correctly. So you want to get as many multispore germinations as possible per swab if you do it this method. And so in that case, you should always swab a bunch of plates so that you always have some cultures, multispore cultures, to go back to. You could put them in storage in the fridge or something, and you could always go back to that multispore germinations. So for the purposes of this video, that's pretty much it. So to sum things up, this method is to maximize germination across the plate for the sole purpose of growing mushrooms, using relatively clean swabs. There are better methods out there for other purposes. For example, for maximizing monokaryotic growth. So now I'm going to wrap this baby up. Alright, and it's good to go. And don't worry, it's okay to push into a little bit, right, to really get those spores off. You can start to see the pattern in the reflection, at least I can. I don't know if you guys can, but yeah, really dig in with that. So yeah, that's plenty of spores onto there right now. So I'm going to put this aside, and I guess that's the video, guys. Again, over here we have the swab here, right, completely fine. So you could store this and ready to be used another day. I'm actually, after I finish filming this, I'm actually going to use this and swab it onto this. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great day or night. And actually, you know what? Let's talk a little bit more. So I want to actually go back and talk a little bit about dirty spores again. Dirty swabs, I should say. Nowadays, I don't bother. If I swab with this method and all I get is contamination, I'm just not even going to bother trying to save it. It's just a waste of my time, and I can't really trust that the person that I got the swab from really knew what they're doing. So, I just don't waste my time with that. I'm just not going to waste my time with that. So, but generally, it's normal to expect maybe some contamination. It's possible. It's certainly possible because spores are not sterile. There's always a contamination chance with it. It's just the name of the game, right? But limiting is the important part, limiting the contamination. And one method that you could do that with is to sterilize a bunch of water inside like a mason jar, like a small mason jar. Get like 1 to 3 sterile water containers, separate mason jars. What you can do is you can dip it, right? Just like swish it around in one, and then you could swab your plates. What that does is it sort of takes off some of the potential contaminants off into the water. If you want to be super safe, you could do 3 of them. So you swish into one, swish into another, and then the last one you just dip it and take it out, and it's good to go. And then you swab a bunch of plates. Just a little tip, and sort of my personal attitude towards dirty swabs. I just don't have time for it. There's no reason why it should be that dirty unless it comes from a wild mushroom. That's the exception. That's completely understandable. But if you're growing mushrooms at home and you have like tons of contaminations coming off, it's just ridiculous. So anyways, that's all, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you found it helpful. So until next time, Mycophile Sage, checking out for now.